Good afternoon, everybody. You are back with the crew for Lighting the Candle, A World That Works. We get together every week and we record a couple of podcasts to share with you. The theme is empowerment. It has to do with having conversations that highlight certain things that we are observing, that we may be interested in, and it may be uncomfortable for us to talk about from time to time, and what we know about speech that doesn't work. The cure for that is more speech. So all that said, as long as we continue to work with each other, you, the audience, all of us on the panel, and we continue to try to discern what works for people and move from there, I think we got ourselves a pretty interesting topic to talk about. So again, I'm Bill Carell, and you're going to meet our panel again this week. And I want you, when you identify who you are, I would also like you to say a little bit about what you know. And I think before I get to the meat and potatoes, I want to take a minute or two and talk about the two words, rhetoric and demagoguery. And the reason I want to talk about that is it just came up for me as I was coming back from the mailbox. So if that works for you, I will pass it over to you, Lisa.
Okay, I am Lisa. I was just thinking about your words, and perhaps after I am been in the media background my whole life, and recently started a co-published a magazine called Epic, Empowering People, Inspiring Community, and it's spirituality, health, and sustainability, which are three topics I am passionate about. And first, I think I would like your definition of those two so that I could balance my opinion based on what angle you're coming from.
Again, the two words are very important that I not tell you what I think first, so that whatever you have to say about it will be fresh and it'll be your opinion if that works for you. They are definable. We probably could have our resident poetic researcher look them up for us, and we could start with that.
Okay.
And as it stands, I just kind of am wondering, Lisa, you've been in the marketing, you've been in mass media for such a long time. Do those two words have any meaning to you at all? They may not.
Nothing comes to me right off the top of my head, so I'd rather.
That's fair. Thank you. Anything else that you want to say?
No, I'm interested to see what plays out with those words.
I am too. Ken, how about you?
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting. So, where my mind went was, is it rhetoric, and is this someone serving the role of a demagogue, or is that the way I'm perceiving it based on how I'm receiving this information? Like, how does it contrast against what I believe in my values? So, because, especially for the idea of demagoguery, as far as, it's usually like you're playing off, feelings and ignorance and rallying, that's kind of, at least my understanding of the definition. But the person saying it, their intentions may not be to take advantage of. They may truly believe what they're saying, so it always just strikes me. It's like, whenever someone brings to you an opinion or projects something towards you, looking back at them and saying, who's this person that's asking this? Where are they coming from? And doing a little discovery about that, withhold judgment, stay curious, ask good questions. So that's kind of where I went. It's not much of an answer, but it was more just, that's what I got for now.
I think it's a terrific answer. It's what you got, right?
Yep.
Vanessa, how about you?
Yeah, hi everyone. So Vanessa S. Lewis. I'm a freelance writer and a marketing copywriter. Who helps our clients and prospects keep in touch with their prospects and clients and customers, but also a curious person. And sometimes that gets me into trouble, having curiosity. Um, so, and I enjoy having conversation, stimulating conversation with great people, and I hope to uncover a bit of truth along the way. That's pretty much the introduction that I use whenever I come onto this podcast. The words that you gave here, you just want to give our experience of them. To be honest with you, the other word, demagoguery, I don't think I've heard of it, but I certainly haven't used it very often. Did I even say that right?
You did great.
Okay. A for effort there. And then, but rhetoric. So I heard you say that there's a resident panelist, researcher, nerdy kind of girl. No, you didn't say nerdy kind of girl. I'm throwing that in there. I think you were talking about me.
I think it was implicit, yes.
We're glad to look it up for everyone. So I did that. I'm sure plenty of people that are listening would know what rhetoric means. But I'm just going to go ahead and define it for us here. Okay, so what I'm seeing here on just a basic Google pulling up is a rhetoric is the art of effective or persuasive speaking or writing, especially the use of figures or of speech and other compositional techniques. And some synonyms are eloquence, delivery, diction, expression, the way with our words, the command of language. And then the second definition is it can be a language designed to have a persuasive or impressive effect on its audience, but often regarded as lacking in sincerity or meaningful content. So it can be
Yes.
portentousness, pomposity, boastfulness, bragging, and some other big words which I'd rather not pronounce right now. Well, bombastic. That's a pretty cool word. Actually.
That's a great word for that.
So that's it. I mean, I think it's a good time for you to be bringing that word up because we're in the last few weeks before elections and not about to get political with you guys or with the listeners, but I know last week, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be with you all, but you were talking about language, and so this is kind of a neat follow-up. Rhetoric is definitely all about language, and I think that the most I'll say regarding the political landscape is that people refer to the rhetoric, the political rhetoric, like if it's it's words that are specifically chosen. Some people even think there's a script that all the major media stations have to follow. If not from the politicians themselves, I'm not sure. I'm just exploring some topics with you all. I'm not making any judgments. But being as that the definition here of rhetoric that I just read, says that it's designed to have a persuasive or impressive effect. But the second part is it's often regarded as lacking in sincerity or meaningful content. So that tells me that rhetoric involves a lot of words that sound good, maybe even tickle the ears. And so in a political landscape, they might be words that are either designed to, like a politician might use rhetoric to, within his or her campaign, to influence the listeners. And just by using soothing words, words, again, going back to last week's conversation, from what I heard from the replay, was, just words that ignite certain feelings and emotions within our imagination when we hear them. Yeah. So these could be good words, or these could be, in the case of a lot of the media today, the sensationalism and words that incite fear in us. So just checking back on just reading back over the definition, see if I missed anything I wanted to say. No, that's what I'll say. And the other word, maybe someone else will define that for us. Or if you could spell it for me, I can define it and share the definition, but someone else can expand on that.
So
I pulled it up.
Have you got it? Do you want to read us
Yeah.
the definition, Ken?
Okay,
So let's
thanks.
see. So I've got a leader who obtains power by means of impassioned appeals to the emotions and prejudices of the populace. A leader of the common people in ancient times, to speak about like an issue, for example, in the manner of a demagogue. So, and then if you look at, there's some other definitions like through Wikipedia where it's like they use the term rabble rouser, gains popularity in a democracy by exploiting emotions, prejudice, and ignorance to arouse the common people against elites, whipping up the passions of the crowd and shutting down reasoned deliberation. So that gives you, more the dictionary and then more like the cultural perspective on that word.
Awesome. Anything else to say, Vanessa?
No, that's all I got. I look forward to hearing what you have to say, Bill.
Well, I will jump in, and essentially, I was originally thinking about, why don't we talk about trust? What's the other word we were going to talk about, Vanessa?
What did you have here? Distinguishing trust and intimacy as a community. Intimacy was the other word, though.
Exactly. So the whole thought here is that the antithesis for me, if we're talking about one-to-one, or we're talking about starting with our self first as a way of being, and then how we conduct ourselves in the world and how we process information for ourselves, that's all well and good. One of the things we talked about last week was, how do we take that from an individual awareness or an individual set of trainings or an individual just being able to have a conversation about what if what you hear isn't the truth, it's just what you hear. And we're all going to hear what we hear as a result of an accident with who we hang around with, what we listen to, what we read, whatever it seems to be the most important thing for us to look at right now. So the opposite of trust and intimacy when we're talking about a community phenomenon is, how do you create trust and intimacy? Well, I'm thinking back in terms of the Roman Senate, 2,000-3,000 years ago, whenever that took place, how the votes were swayed in the Senate. They had their clans and they had their alliances and they had all the rest of this, but it was the demagogue's goal to make the people who disagreed with him or her, and then in those days it was mostly hymns, but to get whoever disagreed to look bad in their disagreement, or to look like they weren't completely informed. So the manner of speaking was one that was at an emotional level, and when said enough times, it's no longer an emotional level, it's what's so. Does that make sense? So the demagogue's job is to take a narrative, create it, control it, and then make sure that all the other conversations about that topic, subject, what have you, either are about that or not about that. So the rhetorical part of it is kind of I call it a metamorphosis. It starts out with trying something and see if it's getting a response. And if that's not getting a response, you may raise the amplitude. And you may raise, the words and the strength of the words and their ability to either cause upset or to cause, people to actually agree and feel good about what you're saying. So now all of that happens so that a situation gets created where people are not feeling safe, not feeling well. And so then the great demagogue comes in and they are the savior. They create the opportunity to be safe in the conversation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now while all this is going on, it performs two functions in my mind. And I think all of us, if we just, if I stop speaking for 5 seconds, you can probably picture who your favorite demagogue is. Okay, so now let's shift the conversation entirely. Let's talk about whether or not community speeches, community media, community, all of those things, are they in the trust building business? Are they in the intimacy building business? if you have an idea one way or the other, I'd kind of be interested in what you have to say about that. Lisa, you want to play now?
Well, because I wanted to make sure, I watched a YouTube this morning, and I wanted to make sure it was the correct title because, of course, the way the universe works, but it was Reviving Rhetoric.
Yeah.
And so he was a speechwriter, a British speechwriter speaking in Italy and talking about bringing rhetoric back so that more people could speak their mind properly and not just have a few orators out there, a few demagogues, whatever, out there taking the limelight all the time.
Yes.
So if everybody could speak, then, with their own authority, and make their point clearly, and not back down, I think, that would be, like we were talking about language last week, that would be one of the better ways for people to listen and respond instead of reacting. And that way, I think more conversations could be had, which is what we've talked about before.
Yes.
And then that comes back to bringing that kind of thing back to education, which we've all talked about too before, which is one of the key ingredients to making the world a better place. So I thought that was an interesting way the universe brought that video to me. But he had the 5 or 6 key elements of popular rhetoric, from the beginning of man, and I have them down. I have them on my phone. If somebody wants to, we could bring them up. But there's definitely patterns that people use in speaking to people that they know will get attention.
Yes. So I have one question for you, and I'm going to speak for a little bit while you look those up and maybe share 2 with us if you're willing to.
Sure.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there are people who present facts, they're factual leaders, and or what they speak about is verifiable, and you can go back and you can test it, and it's backed up by something other than the words that they're using.
Yeah.
Demagogues rarely use words that mean anything that you can go back and trace. Like, for instance, somebody said once, "The only thing there is to fear is fear itself." Now, that still resonates, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to give any examples of what fear is, or you've clearly identified something that now is palpable and it has weight and mass, and it is something that each one of us has had prior experience with. You can give me a nod when you've found what you're looking for, Shelley.
Oh, sure.
All right.
I mean, there's 6 simple points.
Yeah.
Persuasive speech writing, and they're to get breathless when you're making your statements, and you say the statements 3 times, so people pick up on that energy.
Yeah.
To repeat 3 times, to balance things in 3s, to use metaphor, which is what people throughout history have always done, to use exaggeration, and to use rhyme are 6 of the most. So it's and not to say that anybody that is a speechwriter is definitely not always obviously going with facts. It's emotion.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant. I really do, because it actually allows people to start listening differently. I mean, I know I will, in this moment. It's no longer a question of what am I hearing and do I agree with it? And Ken, I'm going to pivot to you, because you've been posting on Facebook it's like more words than I've seen you string together at one time since I've known you in 5 or 6 years. And part of what you've been talking about is this whole idea of, because words are invisible, words are not only being sent as something and received as something, oftentimes it's not the same. And then it also lands in a place where you can make a choice and you can take it from there.
Yeah. I'm back on Facebook, sort of.
with abandon, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm doing only long form writing, so and basically, personally, I feel that social media does have a very powerful place. It's just a tool, and rather than kind of remove myself from it in frustration, I've decided to just try to contribute. So that's why I'm back on, but I'm breaking the rules and doing really long things, and I'm not putting cute cat pictures on there. So, although one of them did have a picture of my doggy. So, but anyway, the thing that strikes me about this, I'm going to go to one of my favorite authors, Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great.
Yeah.
He's a business author, and he talks about level 4 and level 5 leaders. And when someone's speaking, that's the question that I ask myself is, are they a level 4 leader or are they a level 5 leader? Now, the way he differentiates that, a level 4 leader is someone who has an intense commitment to a vision, and they will drive that vision forwards. They're persuasive, they're intense, and just it's sort of a little I-based. It's something they see, and they are just going to drag it kicking and screaming into the world. So a level 5 leader has all of that with the inclusion of humility and a purpose that's greater than themselves. And in fact, most of the top CEOs of most of the companies that have done the most good in the world, no one knows their names. They have no idea, because these were level 5 leaders. They were building something that was much bigger than them. They did not want the magazine covers in the limelight. They didn't need to be the center of attention. They weren't motivational speakers. They were motivated to speak in a way, that would fulfill this purpose. So I don't mind rhetoric if it's coming from a level 5 leader who's speaking their truth in a way that's going to add value to the lives of the rest of us. So it's always like the lens that you see it through. So that's what struck me.
Awesome. So if you're not friends with Ken, you should be, and you should read his stuff, because it's very thought-provoking. And quite frankly, when you speak, I hear a lot of other really motivational type leaders, book writers. It's all in there. It's just like this really wonderful bouillabaisse of everything empowering, and you taking it on personally and being quite open and sincere about how it affects you in the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I appreciate that. You are lighting the candle, my friend, no doubt about it.
I'll keep at it.
I want to say that I've been around a couple of level 5 leaders, but unfortunately one of them is so well known that he doesn't fit that particular mold. But if anybody knows, over the 30 years of Jack Welch's running General Electric, one of the things, he made a difference just by being in the room. He created such a powerful listening to all of the up-and-comers, all the people, because GE, they ran for 25 years on the idea's the thing. The team that creates the ideas and brings it to fruition and then executes the ideas, that's what the goal is. So rarely did he ever tell anybody what to do. I mean, you had very powerful presidents of subsidiary corporations, large corporations that we all know the names of. And he would sit in a meeting, and at the end of it, they would ask him to speak. And he would say, in terms of what we're talking about, other things equal, I would always side with loyalty, or something of that nature. And that was him saying, you have both the rope to make yourself a rope ladder or to hang yourself. I really hope you make a rope ladder. And it worked for many, many years. Vanessa.
I like what you just said, Bill. And many years ago now, I mean, I've always heard and it referred to that Jack Welch was a great leader. And he is deceased now. Is that right?
Yeah, I think he passed in like 2014 or something, but don't quote me on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so many years ago, I don't remember the title of it now, but I remember reading one of his books, and yeah, very very interesting way of leading the company, and he brought it to the level where GE is today, I think so. But as you were talking, though, they say we can't multitask. So I was listening to what you were saying, Bill, and then I was kind of reading over Ken's writing here, so kind of interesting. And okay, so all right, I'm going to shift a little bit for a minute because I'm thinking from a marketing from a copywriter's perspective, just what gets our attention. And so I'm just thinking about how, there's so much noise on all of our social media channels. So, for example, I'll talk about Facebook. Like, I like what Ken's done on Facebook here. And if you need me to get back on track, Bill, just call out, just let me know.
I'm going to make a recommendation because we're getting close to the top of the half hour.
Yep.
How about we kind of hold for that and let's open with you on the other side. Does that make sense?
Okay, sounds great.
So having said that, would you like to say goodbye to all of our friends, please?
Okay, bye everyone. Hope to see you on the other side. Thanks for listening today.
Okay, Lisa?
I just want to say goodbye, and I'll end with amen, aho, and ashe.
Very nice. Mr. Ken.
So I'll end by sharing one more thing that I think adds value to the Jack Welch conversation. He came up within the company. He was not an outside savior, this big, hire, flashy CEO that came in. He grew up in the company. He understood it. He worked his way up. And that is one of the things that made him such a compelling leader from reading him as far as I'm concerned. So it's interesting how we're all attracted to the person who says, here I come, I will rescue you, I will save you, when usually it's the acre of diamonds, it's the gem right in our own backyard that's, going to add the most value. So I will leave us with that thought.
That's a great last thought. And I will tag on to that. I think if you look up who the current CEO of Walmart is, it's a very similar story. I believe that gentleman started off unloading trucks at Walmart, and he's now the CEO of the company. So all of that said, see, everything I say is verifiable. I'm either right or I'm wrong. And either way, I just want you to appreciate we're here to get you to open your mind up and think. And the thinking we're talking about, and I don't know, I believe that a mind like a parachute works best when it's open. And so we'll leave it with that. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you again on the other side. Thank you for joining us.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, A World That Works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.